Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. Back with issue 32, and it's time to hit our lore articles. So we learn a bit about the Long War and Chaos's game about trying to take back the galaxy for themselves after feeling a bit betrayed by the Emperor in the Horus Heresy. It's their fault, really. And then we have, of course, a look at some of the Traitor Legions, including some of my favourites. And we also have our next instalment for Sergeant Askerton with Bonds of Honor Part 8. So yeah, the story is really looking pretty good. This is a better looking chapter than the previous one, which is a bit lack on the action. This one definitely shows a bit promise to set up the future story. So before we hit the table, don't forget to, of course, do all the usual. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop me a comment down below. Love hearing back from you guys, and all these three things help us content creators know exactly what you want. And finally, Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They stock everything you need for getting started, new models, gaming equipment and paints, and everything to expand your army as well. They stock the full Games Workshop range, they have their own store, and you can buy individual models and bits if you need them. They also stock some exquisite and rare items such as pin badges, collectibles like that, as well as past and present partworks from Hachette. So check out Warbay, either go to the store or follow the link to their website in the video description, and who knows, you might find your next hobby project at a bit of a bargain. Right, let's head to the table and we'll do some reading on this latest issue. Here we are then, back with issue 32, and we've done our painting, so we can put our paints away now in the paint drawer, which is still on the table there. And we've got some lore to do, so we'll adjust the camera and we can start looking at some of the Chaos forces. So into the magazine we go, past our paint guides, and here's our first lore article. So this is all about the Long War. Over many thousands of years, the galaxy has felt the malice of the Chaos Space Marines, who see their battles as part of a single long war against their enemies. Though their actions are not centrally coordinated, they nonetheless see each of them as part of the effort to win the victory that ought to have been theirs so long ago. The mighty Iron Warriors breached the lines of the loyalist Imperial Fists. Following their defeat at the Siege of Terra, the Chaos Space Marine Legions fled into the Eye of Terror, where they knew loyalist forces would not follow them. In this nightmarish hellscape, the warp overlaps with the material universe, and supernatural energies twist and distort the very fabric of reality. In such a place, madness reigns and the laws of physics are meaningless. Even time itself is subject to the whims of the dark gods, and while 10,000 years have elapsed since the end of the Horus Heresy, for those within the Eye of Terror, it may only have been a few centuries, years, or even days. As a result, many of the Chaos Space Marines that wage war on the Imperium today are the very same traitors who fought against the Emperor millennia ago. For them, the war has never ended, and their hatred and bitterness still burn strongly. Let the galaxy burn. The rage, bitterness, and lust for power that first drove the Traitor Legions to their heresy has remained undimmed for the thousands of years since they turned their backs on the Emperor. Now twisted by the power of chaos, they are even more driven to tear down the Imperium. Vengeance writ large. For thousands of years, the Long War has been fought by the Traitor Legions and the Loyalist Space Marines. Fueled by the malice of the Chaos Space Marines, this ancient conflict shows no sign of slowing. Date M32. The demon Primarch Perturabo conducts a sacrilegious ritual cursing Forge World toil and causing its mechanical creations to twist into demon-possessed horrors. Date M34. A Night Lord's fleet slits past Acadian defense and spreads terror across the Scarus sector. A series of boarding actions by the White Consul Space Marines bring their raids to a halt. Date M35. The World Eaters invade the industrial world of Iriad 4. The Ebon Knights mount a defense, and the fighting is so brutal that only a handful of either force survives. Date M41. The World Eaters invade the world of Armageddon. Imperial forces already struggling against a rebellion on the planet finally push back the invaders with the help of the Grey Knights. Date M41. Through the work of Chaos forces, the galaxy is split asunder by the Cicatrix Maledictum. The enemies of Chaos are cut off from their allies, and a new age of terror dawns. So we'll be returning to Armageddon very soon with a new campaign, and Demon Primarch Angron has returned, and the Grey Knights are going to have to do a little bit more work than last time to banish this guy. They may need the help of the Wolves of Fenris. We also have some pictures here to look at, so we've got some corresponding sort of elements from each of the different factions. So Chaos Lords are cunning strategic commanders and mighty warriors in their own right. A captain armoured with Phobos armour is perfectly equipped for recon and infiltration. Chaos Chosen are among the most fanatical warriors of the Chaos Space Marines. Veterans of the First Company bring valuable combat experience to a Space Marines army. Warpsmiths possess mastery of infernal mechanical engines and devices. Apothecaries are medics who minister to the wounded, dying, and the dead on the battlefield. The possessed are Chaos Space Marines who have blended with demons from the warp. Heavily armoured aggressors can be used to hold positions or breach enemy lines. The only odd one out is here, Chaos don't really have a medic in their army. It's about time they really do get one. They used to have rules for the Chirurgeon back in the day, which was a Chaos-tainted medic. Yeah, really could do with a updated model. Maybe like a Demon Smith or something that patches up Chaos Space Marines with demonic gifts or something. That'd be quite nice. But yeah, there we have it. Moving on then, we got to look at the Traitor Legions. Traitor Legions smash into the Blood Angels' lines. There's our awesome power spear. I want that on a model. Should be easy to convert, I suppose, from some other kit. But yeah, it looks really cool. We see Blood Angel Terminators leading the charge there. The Traitor Legions are the sworn enemies of the Emperor and the Imperium. In the thousands of years that they have fought, each has developed their own culture drawn from their former identities as Imperial Legions, but corrupted by their bitterness and exposure to the taint of chaos. In the ages that have passed since so many of the Emperor's most faithful warriors fell to darkness, the Imperium has tried but never succeeded in wiping out their scourge. Instead, these Heretic Astartes, twisted reflections of the best of the Imperium, have continued their blasphemous worship of the Chaos powers, and have continued to prosecute their barbarous wars. Each of the different groups has different desires and different methods. Some want only power, sacrificing themselves, and others in pursuit of ambition. Some are driven by ancient grudges and resentment, whereas others still are driven by religious fervour and a desire to spread the worship of chaos across the galaxy. Alpha Legion. The Alpha Legion are seasoned warriors who place subtlety and misdirection at the forefront of their plans. So masterful is their use of the psychological warfare that none are truly sure whether reports of their deeds are fully accurate, or whether they are lies and rumours deliberately spread to mislead enemies of the Alpha Legion's tactics and capabilities. First-hand accounts are rare, but those who have survived an Alpha Legion assault speak of false fronts, sudden attacks, and unexpected ambushes. Word-bearers. The Word-bearers are fanatical followers of Chaos Undivided. Most of their campaigns have religious motivations, and they will fight to the last soldier to spread chaos as far across the galaxy as they can. So devout to the dark gods are they that they willingly give their bodies over to possession and summon legions of demons to fight alongside them. To do battle with the Word-bearers is to face the full horror of chaos. Iron Warriors. The Iron Warriors are expert siege troops who use attrition and heavy weapons to overcome enemy defences. They are not as devout as many Traitor Legions, having betrayed the Imperium more from their feelings of being used and neglected by the Imperium than from any devotion to the Chaos Gods. Night Lords. The Night Lords are raiders and pirates who seek power and riches above all else. They are experts at sowing terror and confusion amongst their foes, and they revel in the fear of others. Before engaging the enemy head-on, skies are darkened by ash clouds and infernal screams ring out over Vox networks. Weakening the resolve of their adversaries, it is then that they strike in vicious assaults. So, yeah, some of the awesome Traitor Legions. One of my personal favourites is the Word Bearers. I really like their red with silver trim. Nice dark, sort of reddy crimson colour. And yeah, the fact that they are very preachy, again, is another thing that I oddly enjoy, but again, don't really follow in real life, I guess. I'm not really a religious sort of person, but if I was, I'd probably definitely be preaching with the word. And another one of my favourites, but one I probably would never do, is Iron Warriors. I'm too much of a Imperial Fist fanboy, so if I'm doing a siege force, it's definitely going to be Crimson Fists. But yeah, Iron Warriors, I've recently, although by the time this video goes out last week, have rewatched Iron Within on Warhammer Plus. And one thing I want to know is, GW, when are we getting plastic Chaos Breachers? Because, yeah, that would make me collect an Iron Warriors force as if we had Breacher Marines. Because they use Breachers as like a frontline thing with lockstep, shield wall, gunning down Eldari and Cadians. Really awesome. Led by a Terminator Lord with Power Fist and Twin Bolter. And yeah, having a nice mixture of marks of armour, some Mark III, some more Chaos Twisted sort of armour as well, looking really cool. So yeah, there we have it. Right then, time for a little bit of a story with Bonds of Honor, Part 8. Well now, that meal wasn't too bad, was it? You see, there's nourishment in dirt if you're hungry enough, and our cooks turn out food that is at least one measure better than soil. But don't settle into our home comforts too much. Nicandor, see how Acrisius slumbers next to you? Give him a swift kick, will you? Welcome back, boy. Don't look too scandalized at your friend. You may be hurting now, but if he had tapped you softly instead of awaking you as I commanded him to, I would have had to come over there and rouse you myself. Do you think that would have been better for you? No, for my boots are a good deal heavier than his. So your friend did you a great favour there, you see, although your shin may be in disagreement. Now, what must I do to keep you all awake? Shall we stand in the cold for a while? It's hard to sleep on your feet, although I've seen boys try before. How about a nice run to get you used to the different places of Colossus? You like the sound of that? No? Well, I could go back to the story I was telling you. I'm sure the exploits of Sergeant Askerton and his valiant band of brothers will keep you awake and attentive. Now, there was the squad of Silver Templars in the decrepit old junker. Its crew lay dead and flames were spreading fast. A small fire, of course, is little threat to a space marine encased in his armour. But fires in ramshackle ships lead to explosions, and they can be a deal more deadly. If you remember, Mectras had sighted a flash of an alien craft in the window, and by the time he had voxed to his brothers, the Corsairs were already on board. So swift was their pilot's helmsmanship, and so agile was the boarding party, that they were immediately among the Space Marines before any but Mectras had noticed. Perhaps they were shocked to find that worthless tin can full of some of the Emperor's most deadly warriors. But I think not, for the gunship outside proudly displayed the colour of the Silver Templars, and I think that they must have known. Indeed, the Eldari seem to have their own strange ways of knowing many things.
Nonetheless, the squad gave them a heavy fight from the moment they stepped on board, and the ferocity of their reception left the pirates reeling for a moment. Fighting in a ship is a strange kind of terror if you've never done it before. Some boarding parties find that blades and other hand weapons are far superior to guns and rifles, for the walls of a spaceship rarely stop around. By blasting an enemy in front of you, you might breach the hull, fire through the engine, or even shoot one of your own brothers who was lucky enough to be around the corner. Once you realize how complicated it can be, you will suddenly realize why so many die in close-quarter battle. The brothers had the advantage for a second, though. They had just looked through the ship and knew full well where each corridor led. Not that it was complicated. Corsairs are Eldari outcasts who have left the strict paths that the Azayani follow. They strike out in small bands, raiding and looting vulnerable ships. They sometimes work as mercenaries or forge alliances with the Azayani or the Drukhari, but most of the time they make their own way, exploring the galaxy and partaking in all the experiences and sensations that they can. But it doesn't matter how simple a layout is. If you don't know it, you are still walking blind. At Askerton's command, the men loosed a salvo of fire towards the boarding corsairs, and then charged right into them. Two of the pirates were struck by bolts from the brothers' rifles, bursting in a shower of flesh as the projectiles exploded inside them. Another was thrown aside by Darion as he passed, and as the delicate Eldari body struck the floor, its neck broke from the force of its descent. Remember that the strength of a Silver Templar is mighty indeed, but that strength is increased still further by the mechanical muscle that encases them under their armor. A brother can easily accomplish feats that you would normally ascribe to heavy machinery, and though we might use ranged weapons as the fancy takes us, an enemy who gets close to us is at no advantage whatsoever, and will die, as surely as if they were riddled with bolts at a distance. Therefore, you will not be surprised to hear that it did not take long before the squad were back at their gunship, mere minutes, in fact. So small was the scrapper's vessel. Askerton took the pilot's seat and pulled sharply away, reeling around to face the corsair vessel and let loose a single Hellstrike missile. It impacted squarely with the alien craft, even as their pilot tried in vain to steer it away. As it exploded in a searing shower of light, so too did the junker. It was more too. The feeble protection of the core finally giving out. There was no elation, but the brothers took a grim satisfaction in a job well done, as the light of the explosion flashed before their eyes. First the missile, then the explosion of the corsair craft, and finally the junker. The flashes of light kept reflecting across the screen of the cockpit again and again. Even after the fires of the enemy's vessel winked out in the vacuum of space, it was then that the brothers realized that the corsairs were not there for the scrappers, nor the handful of Silver Templars that they found aboard the salvage ship. No, they had an enemy that was far more ancient and far more terrible than both. To their dismay, the squad saw in the distance a great number of Eldari ships doing battle with a vessel of the Chaos Space Marines. A corsair boarding party makes their surprise entry to an unsuspecting ship. There is no law, only the courage to make your own way. And there we have it. That's our lore for issue 32. Up next, we start looking at the shooting phase, and we get to learn the rules for Strands of Fate with the Eldari faction ability. So I hope you've enjoyed that little bit of lore from the 41st Millennium, and I hope you've been enjoying the Combat Patrol videos. Stay tuned then for our gaming and rules video, which will be coming next. But before all that, all that's left for me to do is to say thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time on more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.